Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm putting together my project life spread for the week of July 30th through August 3rd, 2024, and this was for my trip while I was in Berlin. So I'm working with the travel digitals from Ali Edwards. Let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so I had done most of this on my computer and I had originally planned to film that for you guys, but I'm sorry, I was really sick this week, so I didn't actually even do the voice while I was working on it, and I just kind of felt like crafting quietly. So that's what I did, but I'm doing a voiceover for you guys now, so I'll talk you through my process a little bit. So the travel collection for 2024 from Ali Edwards, I decided not to order anything from it, but I did get the digitals. So I'm working with the digitals to create this spread. And I had a little bit more fun with that just because I could manipulate the products to fit what I needed. So there were these 4x6 journaling cards. You can see the one that's there has like the blue border. And I decided to type my journaling because this is a travel spread. So I have more words and more photos that I normally would have. So for this spread, I was in Berlin. If you don't follow me on Instagram and you weren't following along, I have talked about it a lot, so you probably do know. But I recently took a vacation to Europe where I went to 5 different cities. And in my Project Life album, I tend to do weekly spreads, but I adjust those dates as needed. So for this vacation, I broke it into 4 spreads. Each city has their own except for 2 that are going to be combined into one spread just because I wasn't there for very long. So for this one, I'm just in Berlin. So I went through my photos on my computer, picked out my favorites, and to kind of be able to include most of what I wanted, I have a lot of photos in the spread. And then I picked 3 journaling cards and a filler card, 1 filler card and 1 title card. So for the journaling cards, like I was saying, they're those 4x6 cards and they said documenting this adventure on them. So I typed up my journaling so I could get more words in. So I did it on that blue card there that you can see, which is one of the 4x6 cards. There were other 4x6 cards in the kit that looked the same, just with different colors. And what I did was I rotated them to be vertical and then sized them down and cropped them so they would be 3x4. So the border's a little bit narrower at the top and bottom because it's not quite the same dimensions, but you can see there it's that yellow and the other one is like a light tan or gray color. And I did more typed journaling in those. So my story kind of just flows from each of those cards to the next one. And of course I erased the documenting this adventure on the 2 smaller ones because it would have been sideways. And so I was able to type out my journaling to go across the spread. I also printed out some of the chipboard pieces. There are these circles here you can see. I printed those out and then just cut them out to use to embellish 3 of my photos. And then the card that says this travel story was actually a 4x6 card. And I just cropped it down to be a 3x4. And then I added that white space at the bottom so I would have space to put my date stamps on there. I believe that it didn't have space at the bottom in the original card, but it wouldn't have cropped to fit in a 3x4 because the word travel would have been too long. So it worked out perfectly to have that white space at the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going through cards in my stash. So I could have picked one of the digital cards from the kit to print to fill that last spot to have a filler card. But honestly, I didn't, mostly because I'm printing on 8.5 by 11 paper, and what the photos and cards that I used perfectly filled up 8.5 by 11 pages. And so I would have had to use another piece of paper just to print 1 3x4 card, which is something that does hold me back from using digital, but I really don't want to waste the good quality paper from my printer. And I know I could always print out media or other cards to save for other projects, but I just wanted to stick with what I had. And then this also gave me an opportunity to use up some of the cards in my stash. So I pulled over my stack of 3x4 cards that are travel/outdoors related, which is one of the themes that I used in organizing my Project Life cards. If you want to know more about that, I do have a full video explaining how I organize my Project Life cards. So you can definitely see that. I will link it in the description box down below. So I'm just going through them and picking ones that I feel like would work with this spread. I did put one that I had decided I really liked, but I was going through the rest of them to see if there was something I liked more. But what I ended up doing is sticking with that one that I already laid out on the spread. It says, "Time to travel, enjoy your life." And I'm pretty sure that this card is from Freckled Fawn. I believe it's from Freckled Fawn, probably from last year. And it has a lot of space in there. You could definitely use it for journaling, but I put one of the tags that I printed from the kit there. And you saw in the beginning, I printed multiple tags from the kit. I did only end up using this one because when I was looking at my spread, I didn't feel like my other photos had places that I could cover up with other embellishments. So now I'm moving on from that card for a little bit to work on my title. So I went through all of my recent alpha stamps, and you guys can see I have an alpha stamp issue. The alphas are awesome. Stamps from Allie Edwards are amazing, but getting one every month is a lot of alphabet stamps, and alpha stamps are my favorite. So I do actually use them, but it is a lot to work through. So I ended up choosing this one, which I don't know what month this is from, but this is one of the alphas are awesome stamps, most likely from this year. And it has more of like a grungy look, which I thought worked really well for Berlin, because one of the big kind of themes of Berlin is the Berlin Wall, which I was very surprised when in visiting Berlin how much of the wall is still standing. I knew that they definitely left pieces for historical reasons, but they're scattered around the entire city. And there are multiple memorials or things to see with it, but there are also pieces just elsewhere in the city. So I felt like it was just a very big theme of the city. And maybe that's because it didn't come down really that long ago in history. I mean, it was 30 years ago, but it's still, or more than 30 years ago, but it's still and has such an impact in the city. And you can definitely see remnants of it and remnants of East Berlin versus West Berlin. So I really liked this fitting with that. And you can see for my title card there, or not title card, but that 4x6 photo, I have a photo of the Berlin Wall, which is where I'm going to put this title. And that was something I purposefully planned out when printing that photo and selecting to make that one the 4x6. I definitely could have done like the Brandenburg Gate, which is the photo in the middle of the right page, which is one of the most iconic sites in Berlin. To blow that up to the 4x6 would have been very beautiful, but I wanted a photo that had space to fit a title in, so you can see that's what I'm doing. Now I'm stamping out these letters on to vellum because that's one of my favorite kind of tricks with stamping alphas is to stamp them on vellum and cut them out. Cutting them out definitely takes more time. This part where I'm cutting them out, I sped it up 8 times, I think, because it takes a while to cut them out, but it's kind of a relaxing activity. I'm just sitting here watching TV while I'm doing it. And by doing it on vellum and cutting them out gives you a few kind of perks in terms of working on it. So first of all, if you misstamp, you can just restamp. If you saw there, I had done the L twice because the first one, I didn't really like the print of it. So I was able to just redo it. And then when you're laying them out on your photo or card or wherever you're going to put them, you can move them until you glue them down. So I can make sure that my word is spaced and centered and exactly how I want it to be on the page. And then finally, I just like the way it looks with the vellum. I think it adds just a little bit of texture to the page. It helps the letters kind of pop a little bit because vellum is not completely clear. There's a little bit of white to it, which gives just a little bit of contrast around your letters because you can see how I cut them out. I left a little bit of the vellum edge that just helps them pop on the green grass there. And then what I'm going to do is run this through my sewing machine, which I think just brings a little bit more texture and would look a little flat if the letters were just stamped directly onto my photo. That Ready, Set, Go heart was on one of the 3x4 cards in the kit. And I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was. And I just cropped it out of the card and sized it down so I could cut it out to fit here. And I decided to put that right on this photo. And then you saw I went over to my sewing machine and I stitched both the heart and the words down. I stitched the words twice actually because I just like the texture of the stitching. And I glued everything down first. So the stitching is completely unnecessary, but I just love the texture of it. I have white thread in my sewing machine. I generally leave that there. I have other colors, but it's kind of a pain to switch. So I like to leave white because it works on pretty much any spread. But I do want to try to pull in some other threads soon, definitely with December daily, and add a little bit more color to the spread using thread. So I pulled over these chipboard geotags, which I picked up from Studio Calico recently. I haven't purchased a lot from Studio Calico lately, but I did pick up a few things when they had a recent sale. So these were one of the ones I picked up, and I have found that I just really like geotags as a embellishment on my spreads. So I gravitate towards them. And I don't have that many in my stash. So I picked them up specifically with that point. So that's something just kind of to keep in mind when shopping for products. Think about what shapes and sentiments do you use a lot and which ones do you have a lot of in your stash. So for me, geotags are definitely a spot where I just don't have that many, but I'm always reaching for them. Whereas like stars or hearts, I have an endless supply. So I probably don't need to pick any more of those up. Not saying I won't, but I'm at least not going to seek them out. I'm adhering down these pieces that were chipboard, and I just printed them on white cardstock and cut them out. If I wanted them to have the dimension of chipboard, I could have layered them on some just like plain chipboard. But I'm okay with them being flat on this spread, and I am adding some texture in other ways like the chipboard geotags and the stitching. So now I'm going to work on this filler card. My plan was to take this tag that was from the kit. I don't remember what it was in the kit. I think it was just like an embellishment, but I had sized it down pretty small and printed it out, cropped it, and punched the hole in it. And I adhered it down on here. And then my plan was initially to add some chipboard, but I wanted to add some decoration to the bottom of the card. And this card was a really good layout because it has space you can journal, you could add a photo in there, you could add embellishments. And I'm deciding to make it purely embellishments because I already have so many photos and words on the spread, right? So I'm just going to have like something to be fun. I also picked this card because not only is it travel related, but it's got the pink and yellow on it, which went perfectly with this kit. So it feels like it could be part of the Ali Edwards collection, even though it's not. It's not even by the same manufacturer. Now I'm going through all of my word phrase strips, and I have my word phrase strips organized, you can see, by color in rainbow order, because I'm often picking word phrase strips by color, and I usually go through my stash and just pull like one or two colors that I want. But now I'm going through the entire stack and just pulling a bunch of them, and I'm picking them out based both on colors that work with this spread and sentiments. There's a lot of travel ones, but there's also a lot of just like general ones or summer themed. And so I'm pulling ones that both match the color scheme and the sentiments that I want to use. And I'm going to create like a word phrase collage on the bottom part of that card, which I absolutely love how it comes out. You'll see it in a little bit. As far as my word phrase strips, these are organized on my like Raskog cart, which is one of those like 3-tiered rolling carts. And I have them in a box with a lot of my other embellishments that are on pads. And I have a whole video sharing how those are organized. So I will link that one in the description box below for you guys as well if you want to check that out. As far as my organization, I can just talk about that a little bit while I'm going through all these stickers here, but in my craft room, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I am very big on organization and supply organization. And I have a lot of videos here on my YouTube sharing how I've organized my craft space. And I have a class over at Ali Edwards called Plan, Prep, and Play that came out in January of 2023 that has a lot of organization content and a craft room tour. I have a craft room tour here on YouTube as well that is older, probably from like 2021, I would say. I'm not sure. Something like that. But you can definitely check that out if you want to see kind of how my craft space is organized. However, recently it's been getting a little out of hand. It's not really the style I want anymore. And my goal is to redo it and reorganize, redecorate, and really have a new system in here. And I plan to document that entire process here on YouTube. I'm not entirely sure when I'm going to get to it. I was hoping to do it this fall, but I do have quite a few other things on my plate at this moment. I'm redoing a reading room in my house and a lot of craft projects I want to do, and December dailies coming up. So it might be a project that I tackle in the beginning of the year. That said, I'm mentioning here because I would love to hear from you guys what you want to see in that specifically. If there's any specific questions or things that I should address that maybe I'm not thinking of. So I'm just going to, throw that out there, and I will definitely take this over to Instagram and more formally ask you guys, but I'm just speaking as I'm thinking here. Anyways, back to the spread. I'm working on just creating a collage of these word phrase strips. So as you can see from my stack, I have a pretty large word phrase strip collection, right? There's a lot of them, and I love these and I love getting them, but I rarely use just one set at a time. I tend to mix and match as I go, which is fun because I like how they all look stacked together. Generally, I stack like 2 or 3 on a card, but for this one, I'm deciding to create like an entire like pattern where it's almost like, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like tiles on a wall. And then I wanted to put a chipboard piece. I had pulled this one from my stash that has a sentiment on it. And I originally was trying to make that work, and I just decided it wasn't working. It was too similar to the word phrase strips. So I went back to my chipboard, and again, I have my chipboard organized in a drawer beneath my desk here, but some of the like larger categories are in trays, and this is like the travel category that I pulled out. So I was able to pull it on top of my desk, and that is another part of my craft room that I'm probably going to reorganize a little bit. So I've selected this one that says Ready, Set, Go. It's on a star, and I believe it's from an older travel collection from Allie Edwards. I don't know which year. And I really like how that looked on that chipboard or on that tag. And it also added a little bit of dimension to that card because it previously was just the flat word phrase strips and the flat tag that was printed out. I was considering adding some word phrase strips onto some of my other photos, specifically by the chipboard circles that are not actually chipboard, but the printed out circles, or maybe on some of the other photos, but I decided not to. I felt like this spread didn't need that much embellishment on top of my photos, partially because my photos themselves were very like busy or iconic, like landmarks and things that I didn't really want to cover up. When I have photos of like my food or my cat, I'm more inclined to put embellishments on top of them because it's not that special of a photo, but these are of travel. So every photo here is kind of representing something, which I also want to point out, like I took way, way, way more photos than this. And I didn't spend that long worrying about like making sure I had everything documented here. I just picked a few of my favorites because I am going to document this in a travel album and in traditional layouts. This is just to get the basic story told in my Project Life album and include it in there, which is partially why I wanted to do this one first. So here's a look at how the spread came together. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thank you. Bye.